I welcome you all on fourth day of 10 days national training program on smart weed management for sustainable agriculture, jointly organized by Indian Society of Weed Science and ICAR-Directorate of Weed Research. So for today, we have scheduled 3 lectures. So they are on weed utilization, then biological control of weeds, and then application of digital technologies for weed recognition and management. So let us start first lecture, which is on weed utilization, and it will be delivered by very senior speaker. We have with us Dr. Nimal Chandrasena. Sir was the first associate professor of botany at the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, and he was editor-in-chief of journal Weeds, which is published by Asian Pacific Weed Science Society. Sir obtained PhD in Weed Science from University of North Wales, UK, and Sir lives and works in Australia and have 40 plus years of experience as botanist and ecologist. So, Sir has been a long time campaigner for utilization of this malign plant for societal benefits. So, instead of being disrespectful to weeds, Sir works on understanding the weeds better and treat them as nature's gift. So, with this small brief introduction, I invite Sir to please share his thoughts on weed utilization part. Sir.
Thank you, Yogita. Now everyone can see the screen. Can we
yes,
check?
Sir. Yes.
Yes, assume so. And did the material that I sent, did they get sent off, Dr. Soni?
Not yet, sir. We are
okay.
sorting it out. Then we will send them.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. I didn't have time to do a shorter one, but those papers are very important, right, to what we are discussing. So
yes,
when the participants get that material, which they can download actually, but I have provided the best ones that are to be read as part of this training. Okay, so you will receive them. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Right. So, well, I've been, pushing this barrel, let's say, uphill, as it were, for a long time. Right. I started around 2008 and 9 to push the case for weed utilization, understanding of weeds a bit more strongly than before, right? So I'm just speaking to give a bit of background to the listeners, and so it's a long journey already, past 15 years, and I think we have made good ground. There's more and more work being done, and more recognition of the values of weeds in the weed science community in the world, right? I am not saying that I was the only one, but there are others who are doing it, but not many in India at the moment. So, and in 2019, we started the journal for the society, Asian Pacific Weed Science Society, which is very similar to the Indian Society. Indian Society started in 1968. The APWSS started in 1967, right? So we'll be celebrating 60 years in not next year, but in 20, yeah. Anyway, so very near. So, so we, but like I said, the appeal for people to understand weeds more better started to be told in the last 15 years, let's say. The other important thing to remember is why this got messed up in the discipline called weed science is weeds are always thought of as part of agriculture. It's not so. The botanists and the ecologists, if they were involved, but the subject went over in a long way towards agriculture. And that's a big problem, because that is where the understanding became messed up, in my opinion. Yeah, give me a minute. Yeah. So, sorry. So back again. Yeah, things that matter to us are these attitudes of people, the farmers and the public in relation to weeds. There are some ill-defined terms which are messing up our discourse, that some things are called aliens, and everything alien appears to be bad. I'm not too sure about those concepts. You can question them anytime. And much more closer to heart is this word invasive alien species. So when you add the word, I'm sure the listeners know, the participants know invasive species, which is a problem in itself, but invasive alien species, that makes it even worse. So it's as if something has arrived from some alien planet. So the word alien goes back to the 1960s, actually 1500, Shakespeare's time. Alien is foreign, something very foreign. So the concept was applied for people 500 years ago. But we, these weed science fellows adopted it for their particular purposes and made it extremely bad by using the word invasive. Invasive is military jargon, militaristic jargon. So it's very bad. And then the other thing is versus the word natives. Are all natives very good? That's another question. What are natives in the first place? For example, how many would you say in India is native? How many species would be native? No one knows that number, but maybe 50%, but more than 50% are introduced plants in the last 200 years. So we are interacting with many aspects of weeds, right? And this is complicated by the fact that we are interested in, we are interested in agriculture and aquaculture, obviously. We are interested in sustainable ecosystems and making resilient ecosystems. And we've now got climate change, another layer on top of it all, which is of very, very big significance. And then we're also interested in the creating urban environments and rural environments. And in all of these, we will interact with weeds. So we have to understand weeds a lot better and think about it outside agriculture. This is the first thing that I've said a few things now already, but I want you to focus on it. Today, in this first hour, think about weeds not within agriculture. Dealing with weeds within agriculture is easy. Believe me, I'm speaking after 45 years of being involved. It's dealing with weeds outside the agricultural field that is more difficult. Not just in terms of practical control, management, or whatever, but dealing with them as a societal issue. So, as my slide shows, there are sympathetic views. One longs for a weed here and there for variety. So, a weed is no more than a flower in disguise, which is seen, though at once you will see it, but only if love gives man eyes. See how brilliantly a poet wrote in 1876, right? You have to have eyes, but the eyes has to have love in it to see the good virtues of weeds. So bear it in mind. People have been talking about it for a long time, the good values of weeds, although the debate then got hijacked by the weed science community dominated by the agrochemical companies. That matter. So, I mean, I'm not going to talk about negative effects. You've been hearing about negative effects from all other lecturers, and probably more will come your way, right? Reduced losses of biodiversity, displacement of native plants, reduced agriculture production, which everybody knows about, quality, quantity. And I can see from the participants, about half of them have PhDs already in various fields, probably not necessarily in weed science, botany, and ecology. I am very thankful that my start was botany and then into ecology, and I studied in the #1 ecological school in Britain at that time in 1980. And I studied under the ecologists who gave the subject a backbone, the confidence to apply science to weed science. So the negative effects are very well known to you. Adding to production costs, that means if you start controlling weeds, your cost increases. Then if you look at the negative effects on waterways, navigation, flooding, just look at South India, water hyacinth in South India, that type of thing. Thorny plants, poisonous plants, weeds, stained milk. Took a long time to prove this. Garlic and other things in that cows graze on. Actual milk has those things. It's very well known in these countries. And then we started hating these things. Then the words like garden thugs, damned weeds, aliens, they came about as people got more and more concerned about this. As I said before, even in the recent times, the values of weeds have been talked about. Aristotle, 380 BC, talked about values of natural world, how to observe and study trees, herbs, animals. He did not use the word weeds. Then Theophrastus, the father of botany, 300 BC. That means 2,300 years ago. Vivid descriptions of plants with medicinal values. None he called weeds. Then Pliny the Elder, that is now into the AD, so 200 AD, 77 to 220 AD. So Pliny wrote 17, 18 books. Many of them have references to what we call weeds today. Hemlock, he's the first one who said use it as a poison to kill someone, right? Hundreds of other species. Pliny's books are available for everyone. Then Dioscorides, great man, Materia Medica, large amount of information on herbal uses. Almost all our weed species in today's listings. Then go back to the Indian Vedic text, Ayurveda. The dates are not certain, but 600 to 800, 800 BC, before Lord Buddha's time. I will refer to Lord Buddha because I'm a Buddhist. And then to 600, right? The long period, 1200 years, the Vedic text came out. You people know all of this. And they all talk about weeds, right? As medicinal. Then what about the early Buddhist stories, Jataka stories? They all the time talk about weedy species. And there's a particular one, early Buddhist Jataka, Divodasa, a physician who lived and taught in Varanasi. And that's his statue there at Varanasi. So he may have treated even Lord Buddha. Okay. Then this matter of having this thing called war with weeds, which is almost unbelievable militaristic jargon that we should be careful about, came about not long ago, right? So here I'm tracing a little bit that 200 to 300 years ago, our attitudes began to change very much. And as you can see here, the reference to disabled people was to weed them out, 16th century reference. Then 1800s, 250 years ago or 225 years ago, the word was used, weed was tobacco. And then in 1900s, sorry, the word weed is cannabis, right? So the other interesting thing is Jethro Tull, the photo at the bottom. He said 1731. That's going back 275 years. He called these weeds herbae inutilis, useless plants. Some of them. Then herbae noxiae, noxious plants, and that's where the word noxious came from. Australia likes the word noxious weeds, noxious weeds, noxious weeds. It stunned me when I first came here 32 years ago. Where is this word coming from? Because back in England, I hadn't heard it. And Jethro Tull also said weeds are like muscae, flies, domestic fly, uninvited guests, he said. They are pests. That's all. But, they were grappling with this problem that the weeds cause. And Jethro Tull is the one who invented row cropping, right, with his horse-driven carts going in rows. He's the one 275 years ago who invented for everyone row cropping, and you know what it means, right? So gradually in the 1900s, the weed impacts were felt in the cities of America, particularly North America, Canada, and as they were being colonized by the British and the French. And so we started a war with weeds. But there were some people who wrote very well about weeds. And so the books that I am showing here, the second one, Weeds and Environmental History, from Zachary Falk, a friend of mine, is a very good book, available if you want. Then the one on the right of the screen, wrote from Britain. He's a journalist, a lovely book on weeds. They're all available, right, for you to read. The one on the left is a war on weeds. Clinton Evans from Canada wrote how the word came about, how the phrase came about. The comment that I have right at the top, weeds are everywhere. Weeds attack humans. Do you know where it came from? That comment came from India, right? I don't want to name the scientist. He's quite well known, okay? But he looked at me and said, oh, Nimal, what are you talking about? Weeds are everywhere. Weeds, they attack humans. I kept my mouth shut. Okay, this is the book that I have to refer to, and that's the one, sorry, hold on a minute. I can't see myself now on the screen. Let me bring that back up. Anyway, so this great book is I think very important, and I'm not too sure whether DWR has a copy. Theories of Colonizing Species, that started the science. Okay, so the great man George Baker, he's the one who described for us the ideal weed. Everyone should know those things. And then Ledyard Stebbins, another botanist, they put together this conference in 1963 in the United States, University of California, again, funded by Rockefeller Foundation. And in 64, the book came out, The Genetics of Colonizing Species. So the symposium had its object, the bringing together of geneticists, ecologists, taxonomists, and scientists working in some of the more applied phases of ecology, wildlife conservation, weed control, and biological control of insect pests. You can see that the science came about not just looking at weeds, but looking at colonizing species. Weeds are nothing but colonizing species. Okay, so let's move on. Otherwise, I will not. I will run out of time. Okay. So weeds are nothing more than. I can't see some of these things, so bear with me. George Baker described what an ideal weed, and they gave all the characteristics of these species that we malign or want to blame for all our follies. The agricultural field is just a heavily disturbed single habitat, right? We're dealing with the subject in a very small habitat space, if you understand. The agricultural field is nothing compared to what we're dealing with, weeds in the world. The occurrence of weeds is inevitable. They are in any disturbed habitat. So the habitats that you are disturbing every single day, your backyard, your home gardens, your parks and gardens, your roadways, everything, the first species to come there would be the pioneers, and they are weeds. And so they are actually pioneers of secondary succession. Those who have studied botany and ecology will know what secondary succession is. Primary succession is where there is nothing, barren, and where there is, when there is moisture, liverworts and mosses come there and occupy. They are the pioneers, and they make room for the others to follow. And then come the flowering plants, small little ones. And so take your mind there. That's what the weeds are. That's what the group we are dealing with. A plant is a weed if its population grows entirely or predominantly in situations markedly disturbed by man. And we are bold enough now to say that. They do not grow in the middle of an Amazon jungle if there is no man nearby. The evolution was driven by man. We drove their evolution in the last 12,000 years or 25,000 years if we take our agricultural history back to domestication of dog and cats and all that. And then real agriculture 12,000 years ago. And then 11,000 years ago, the last ice age, the rising of the sea and continental separation. India separated from my country, Sri Lanka, at that time, 11,000 years ago. So we didn't do agriculture for a long time. That's the important point, right? Real agriculture happened 9,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago. That's when these species became what they are, okay? So what is important for us to understand is that the term taken to mean a species or a race, it's a species that is adapted to environments provided by human disturbances. Don't think about other people's disturbance, it is us. So weeds and we go forward or backward together. It's only we who will go backward, weeds will always go forward. Those species thrives under human disturbance more than Homo sapien himself. In this sense, man is the #1 weed in the world. And I'm sure our listeners will think about it. Jack Harlan said that. He's a evolutionary biologist. He said that man is the primary weed on this earth, right? Please think about it when you think about weeds. The picture at the bottom left is Botany Wetlands, Sydney. It's Ludwigia peruviana. These are the infestations that gave me a career in Australia. The Indian expert in Ludwigia peruviana is Dr. Barua from Northeast India. And him and I are trying to write another article on this. I did a lot of work in Sri Lanka and in Sydney, so I got my big break, millions of dollars to fix these wetlands, which are near the Sydney airport. That gave me a career. Okay, beneficial effects of these, I will refer to them as colonizing taxa. So think about that word, invasion or colonizing. Colonizing is much better, right? India was colonized, Sri Lanka was, Ceylon was colonized, Australia was colonized, right? The natives had to give way to the people who were coming in, including the white Europeans. Colonizing is a much better word. It's an ecological term. It's closer to what we really want to say to it, not invasion. So again, beneficial effects are very well known, and the material that I'm providing will show that. So if we go through is a little bit, biodiversity values are well understood. They are recognized as part of wild nature, like I said, in the last 20 years. And the most important, Jack Harlan and others said, weedy relatives of crops. And we know that India is doing a fair bit of work. DWR itself, tomato, weedy relatives of those crops are absolutely necessary to improve your crop varieties. Then ecosystem services, which we will come to, pollination services greatly depend on weeds. Ecological values, easy for you to understand, soil improvement and other things. Edible weeds, very easy. Food security for the world. Medicinal plants, again, very easy to understand. Novel pharmacological compounds, going like gangbusters at the moment, pharmacological work. Allelochemicals, biopesticides, we'll come to it. Aquatic plants in water quality and habitat improvement, again, wetlands and other places. We know that they can pull, I will come back to it, pollution removal included. And what about raw materials for industries? Again, India is doing a lot. We will come back to it. Dyes, essential oils, arts and crafts, cottage industries. India cannot be beaten. India and Africa are the best examples, and also many Southeast Asian countries. Land remediation, mine site rehabilitation, Australia is leading in that space. Use of these species for that. Firewood and biofuel, again, many other countries are using it. Firewood, India understands that. Multipurpose trees, again, India understands those uses. But what it doesn't understand is these beneficial effects are given mostly by weedy species. Please understand it. They are not given by by slow-growing native trees. No, they have to be fast-growing species to be of any value in any of these things. If they don't grow fast, they are not pioneering species. That means they are weedy species. No doubt about that. So when I started tackling with this issue, I started writing about and trying to understand what is the problem here. The problem is, then I tried to come up with some idea, and the idea is something called the boundary object concept, which came about 15 years ago, again in the United States, again in California. The word, so the problem is there are two actors here. One side does not like weeds, and the other side are some of us, the ecologists and the botanists, who like weeds, and some agriculture. But the greater majority, including the agrochemical industry, do not like weeds. Their profits depend on knocking the weeds down. So we're caught up in and the concept of a boundary object allows you to have a meaningful discussion between these two groups without killing each other, right? It's the boundary refers to the shared space. They both want to understand weeds. They both want to deal with weeds better. That's the common space, the boundary. But it's like it's not a physical fence. It is not a physical space, but it's a shared objective that allows the two groups to talk to each other. And we are now applying it here in Australia, very much so, right? The boundary object concept. The concept is robust enough to allow the two actors to maintain their identity without killing each other and without hating each other. That means I see conservation groups out here in the field, the Aboriginal groups, indigenous groups trying to save the environment, and the council workers trying to spray glyphosate and other things in the environment. So they clash out in the field. Large space in Australia, right? So this is what I'm talking about. So the council has a job, and I've been educating them to bring the two groups together. And we do this in classrooms, what we call office spaces or classrooms. Okay, consensus helps, but it's not always necessary for cooperation. Remember that. Consensus, that means agreeing on something, helps, but not always necessary for cooperation. Conducting investigative research. So the common space can be the boundary. But what brings them together is research, right? That allows you to work together. The approach allows collaborations on investigations on weeds without always agreeing on divergent viewpoints. So there is flexibility versus rigidity of a point of view. And this helps to ease the tensions that the two groups have, right? I remember 10 years ago at a conference, someone tried to put me against someone, again for a battle, really, like this, nasty, toxic disagreements that you have on the common forum. And I objected to it. I didn't do it, right? Because that's not the way to change our perception on anything. We have to collaborate and work together, enhance and share our knowledge, communication and knowledge sharing. That is what will bring people together. That stimulates us to think differently, innovatively. Okay, so remember the boundary object concept, read everything about it. And I have written about it, so you will read about it in my writing. So the boundary object, so then I went further. And nominated the word called green weeds. Now that's the thing, something that you can work with. If someone comes up to you and says green weed, what the hell are green weeds? Green weeds are, so I'm using the word green, which came from the environmental movement, which started in the 1960s with Rachel Carson's book. But in the 70s and 80s, it evolved into the proper environmental movement and recycling, energy saving and all that, right? As the planet got into trouble, as our Mother Earth got into trouble, we came up with green concepts. eco-friendly technologies and so on and so forth. Here comes the word green. Again, I've written about it, and you can read about it in the article, which you will get, right? And here, the best examples are in front of you. Weeds provide, the green weeds will provide wildlife habitat. It's what's called nature. The edible and medicinal weeds we don't have to talk about. We all understand them very well. Biofuel crops, it's a debatable thing. India is, again, doing very, very well on biofuel crops with Jatropha and the Indian Railways buying biofuel from Jatropha. Then other things, paper pulp, paper, wood polymers, biochar, and all of the bioresources. Weeds, green, they are green because they are supporting green industry. The pollination is definitely eco-centric, ecological service that weeds provide. Pollution removal, you've got to go some distance there. India doesn't do it very well. Raw material for all other industries, you know these things very well. So many essential oils are produced, plant dyes and so on. India does very well in these things. What I'm asking for is not a paradigm actually shift, not paradigm shift. I want a paradigm alignment actually, not a holistic, like like what AI is suggesting. We just want a paradigm slight change in our emphasis on what we are doing within a great discipline called weed science. So I thought further about the thing, and at Varanasi I came out with the best way of looking at this whole thing is to concentrate on the sustainable development goals. India has signed on to it. I've said this to the Sri Lankan government, the new government, and we have the tool that we can use best. The tool is actually to concentrate on sustainable development goals. We have signed onto this 17 goals. And if you look at the goal is there on the left. I've given it a score in relation to the contribution that a colonizing species can make to it. The weed species can score either low, or that is 0 to 1, or medium on that category, or very high contribution. Now think about it. The goal, sustainable development goal number 1 is end poverty in all forms in the world. Can weeds contribute? Yes. 3 to 4 for sure. And the comment I made is cottage industries, medicinal and edible weeds, food and fodder for livestock, they are all directly involved in poverty reduction. Then look at goal number 2, end hunger, achieve food security in the world, improve nutrition via sustainable agriculture. That is important for you, the listeners. And there the contribution is even higher, 4 to 5. Because of edible weeds, market gardens that you can make, diversifying crops, multi-purpose trees, and so on and so forth. Look at goal number 3, sustainable. Ensure healthy lives, promote well-being for all at all stages, in all countries of the world. Again, 3 to 4 is my rating. Everything that's mentioned above, plus nature-based solution, NSBs, and education. Use these colonizing species for education. Look at goal number 4. Ensure inclusive, equitable, quality education and lifelong learning for all. Okay, I will score it 1 to 2 because the comment is nature-based solutions and education is for all. Whether they are in your higher education classes, middle or primary school or kids, education is for all. And you can use these species in that education. Look at goal number 5. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls in particular. The contribution is 3 to 4 because most of the cottage industries, especially handicrafts and all, that is done by women, including girls. So very, very big contribution that colonizing species can do. Number 6, goal number 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And speaking in India, I scored low for that because water treatment, wetlands for water quality improvement is not very well developed in India. That's the reason. But in other countries, it is very well developed, right? Number 7 goal, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, modern energy for all. Many of the and I scored high because India is using Jatropha and castor oil both and has a very big potential for biomass grasses, right? They are all what you call weedy species. So you can see that if you use these development goals and start scoring them, you can understand. I'm not going to go through each one. You can see the scores in the middle. They're saying the goal is there, 17 goals, and is up to 13. You can see I've scored very high. Now, number 10. Look at number 10. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Now, no direct effect, right, from weedy species. You can do with other goals, right? So I'm not just doing it in a whimsical way. I'm thinking very seriously about what they can do, what these species can do. And the last two there, promote peace, stop the wars and all that. Weeds can't do anything in that space, right? Strengthen global partnerships, no direct effect. So I have to score low, okay? So you understand where I'm coming from. Hopefully, my effort there will go some distance. Okay, medicinal weeds. I want to focus on this a little bit again. No need for an Indian audience. Okay, I forgot in all of this that I don't look, right? The virtuous weed, which DWR is very familiar with. It's got a couple of copies. Dr. Mishra and everybody else have their copies. The book on the left is The Utility of Weeds. Like I said, we started writing about all of this in 2009. And I have a few copies. I have the virtuous weed copies available. And at the end of this course, I will discuss with Dr. Soni, Choudhary, Gyanendra, and Dr. Gharde whether we ought to offer it to the participants at a reduced rate, and then I can send the books over. It got sold about 20-25 books in India for 1,800 INR, but there is a cost involved in, I can give it for 50%. I'm not making money in this, but a 474-page book is a big book, right? It's already sold more than 100 copies in the world. So I've documented all of these chapter by chapter, each chapter 25, 30, 40 pages long, all of these, right? So what you have to understand is weed flora dominate the pharmacopoeias of the world, more than 50%, any country. This knowledge needs to be preserved. And these are found in disturbed habitat. Where will even your medicinal people go? They will go to disturbed habitat. Where will the Amazonian tribes go? They go to disturbed parts where a tree has fallen over in the middle of the Amazon jungle, where it's opened up and where these fast-growing species grow, right? And the important thing is, if you concentrate on this within weed science, there's enough money to be made. Medicinal weeds are so profitable. I think $40 to $50 billion per year on natural medicine from these plants, right? Almost all, 90% are fast-growing, colonizing species. And if we are smart, we will incorporate them into our new agro-ecosystem designs, as the Singaporeans are doing with very limited land. Most important for you to remember, the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015 recognized Dr. Yu for her discoveries concerning a novel therapy against malaria from wormwood, Artemisia annua. What is it? Artemisinin. A Nobel Prize win record discovered in 1975. I hadn't even graduated then. And so many years later, 40 years later, the Nobel Prize was awarded for artemisinin. See the importance. Anti-malaria, we save billions of people with artemisinin. This still is the #1 medicine. Look for it. If you're Googling what is the artemisinin and its derivatives are still the #1 anti-malarial medicine. That shows how important it is. Edible weeds, again, we don't have to talk about it too much. I've shown the pictures down below my own book. There's another lovely book of a feast of weeds. And then, these are from Japan and a few other countries and Australia too. If you go to Japan or Korea, you will see many, many more in the highest, topmost food markets in those developed countries. Not treated like it is a little thing, right? As in Sri Lanka or in India or in Bangladesh. They are treated as culinary delights. as part of very, very high level eating. Biofuel crops, I referred to this several times. India is leading, and I'm very pleased about it. Caucus, Resinous Communist, Castor, many photos I have, and I've talked about it. And we must be thankful for the great Indian Railway for this. I think 40 to 50% of straight fuel is from these two species, Castor and Jatropha. They mix it up with other things and make a very good mixture on which the Indian Railway runs. Great, wonderful stuff, right? Nothing to teach there. The more important thing is whether we could grow these other things. Miscanthus, switchgrass, reed, grass, vetiver, which is very much there in India and Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific countries. The giant arundo, which is a Mediterranean species. I see it every day when I watch the television with bicycle racers going through Italy and Spain and all that. Giant arundo came from there. It dominates Australia too. We can convert it to biofuel, and Australians are very much into it. Then other species which are very well known in India: agave, opuntia, cactus, Cannabis sativus, very well known. Then your water hyacinth, Salvinia, Azolla, Pistia, Statuary, water lettuce, Limna, Sorghum bicolor. These are very major biofuel crops which are being cultivated in European countries, and it is time for India to get on board with and not take a step back. And the important thing is that they give fatty acid mixtures or biodiesel or bioethanol. You don't have to grow corn, which is a very high value crop. For bioethanol, you can grow these other things and extract saturated fatty acids, myristic acid, palmitic acid, margaric acid, and mix it up with the unsaturated ones, oleic and linoleic, and come up with wonderful mixtures that will run everything. And there are other benefits also, like biochar and various other things that come out of this biofuel industry. But no other species than a weedy colonizing species would be suitable. Phytoremediation, again, very well developed in Australia, not so in India. But the important thing is you cannot do phytoremediation of degraded landscapes and mine sites without fast-growing, drought-hardy colonizing species. Again, mixtures of grasses, fast-growing shrubs, and medium-sized grasses. So don't say that every fast-growing tree that you see, a mesquite or an acacia, a wattle, a gum tree, or a pinus, a populus, which is a poplar, a willow, don't hate those species. You can't do this job without them. You need the fast-growing grasses. There is nothing wrong in introducing these species for a given benefit. They will not take over your world. They are the only ones who are able to remove those nasty heavy metals that pollute your environment. Some are hyper-accumulators, but most are accumulators. They don't hyper-accumulate. But there is a difference. We don't want to go into details at this stage. But a very vast variety of species are used in Australia. And a variant of that is what's called very focused and targeted agromining, which is you're using nickel zinc hyperaccumulators. And this is part of my consulting as well at the moment. Nickel phytomining, very much in Eastern European countries, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, all of that. South Africa, Malaysia, and Indonesia have started doing it. High time India should. And you can extract quite easily a yield of 850 to 1,000 per hectare using hyperaccumulators on soil, on areas that are suitable for it. Then the other thing to remember is Fukushima with the nuclear disaster. What is now pulling out the cesium? Sunflowers. And millions and millions and millions of acres of sunflowers being grown in Japan. Go and have a look if you get a chance. Then what about the Chernobyl? What is growing there? Willows, salix species. and you make cricket bats out of it, right? So we introduced some species to India too to make cricket bats. Plenty of uses for willows in the world, right? So you can use these species without any fear. Raw material for industries, again, India leads. And again, look at the stuff on the right-hand side, indigo. I don't have to teach Indians about indigo, right? Indigo fera, indigo, India, right? So the blue dye. And India is very good at extracting from other things as well. You get natural dyes from ancient times, okay? From Indigo fera tinctoria, Isatis tinctoria, the Indian varieties as well as introduced varieties. Then the old one that goes back a long way before the British introduced these species to India, which is only 250 years. The old ancient story is the cochineal dye, carmine, right? Look at the structure on the left-hand side. Carmine dye comes from Dactylopius coccus on Opuntia, right? Cactus, which was introduced by the British, right? South America, Peru, mostly Peru, and then Colombia and other countries, and down to Chile in that area, right? The Indian tribes have been using it for 3,000 years. In 3,000 years, it's the first dye in the world. So many others are commercially exploited, and again, India leads in world volume. So the point I want to make is there's a lot of scope for this. Beta-alanines, which are beta-santhins and beta-cyanins, anthocyanins, the pigment in beetroot, cyanidins, carotins, the pigments in carotenoid, xanthins, all are well known to the biochemistry people, right? So weed science people should work with the biochemistry people. I wrote a lovely article with the Parth Choudhary, used to be at the DWR in Jabalpur. Now I think he's in Bangalore. Colonized in Texas as sources of natural pigments and dyes. Big article, we wrote 20 pages. It's in our journal. I didn't produce it, but you can go to the journal and have a look, free download. And so the other species, amaranthus, you can see the Indian ladies in South America harvesting it. Gomphrena, Pelargonium, Petunia, Hypericum pavratum, St. John's wort, India is trying to control it. Lantana camara, lantana, India is trying to control it. Solidago, golden rods, Tagetes, marigolds. So these are all common species in India and in Southeast Asia, and they can be exploited very greatly if we have a focus on them. Allelochemicals, I must talk about this a little bit. There's always talk in India about allelochemicals and new biopesticides and all that. You know all those stories, right? Your greatest focus has been neem, right? As a Didactra indica. But we haven't been able to produce a herbicide from neem, I must say, right? So there's a lot of scope, though, and I will get this written up soon, the latest research. I wrote a little bit. The new herbicide prospects. Now, you must know that the industry stopped looking for new herbicides in 2012. They stopped investing in looking for novel chemicals, novel herbicides around 2012. There's very little money going there. But they're looking at molecules which are already there, trying to change them a little bit. And that's where the focus is at the moment. So Sogol leads the lot from sorghum and Johnson grass, right? Sorghum jalapeno. So they are benzoquinones. They are photosynthetic inhibitors, just like the old 1959 chemical atrazine, right? Got a bad name because atrazine goes down to the groundwater system. But they're old photosynthetic inhibitors, 75 years old. So if we can produce another benzoquinone from Sogol, that's a winner. Then leptospermone from tea trees, leptospermone species, bottle brushes, callistemon, gum trees, which you know, eucalyptus. Their insecticidal mode of action, they were looked at very closely as insecticidal compounds. We have these compounds at home, right, as insecticidal sprays. But the new class of herbicides, sulfotriones, came out, mesotrione, which is calistro in India, and tembotrione, they came out of the leptospermone push in the last 10 years. Then the old compounds that I used to work with in Sri Lanka, tagidine A, tagidine B, tagidine C, tagidine G from Tithonia diversifolia, sesquiterpene lactose. Now they are getting another run, has been modified for allylochemical use. Then the old chemicals coumarins from Gluricidia. Many other legume crops, they all have coumarins, right? Simple compound. And they are acaricidal, we know that. They're used as rat poison, we know that. The coumarin scaffold is now being used to produce, design other molecules. And the other thing, gave us lanthanidine A, which can be used for water acid control. But if anyone believes that it's water acid, that is joke, right? Can't. So, but it can be mixed up with other things. And the interesting move is that many naturally occurring compounds are combined in Africa and Indonesia, etc., as botanical pesticides. So I do not even want you to think too much about other things. This is where the world is, and this is what you should know, and this is where your focus should be. At future urban and rural landscapes, I got an opportunity to help in all of this. These diagrams to the pictures to the left show the designs in the first world countries, and the ones in the middle, it's Australia, right? The one in the middle, and the ones bottom left is Singapore, and bottom right is again Australia, our community gardens. So we are trying to build a sustainable, resilient urban landscape. No, you cannot do it without fast-growing weedy species. No design. I keep telling ecology designers with whom I work, whether they are traditional designs, community gardens, or all of that, to bring unity of man and nature, this philosophy, you cannot do it without these wonderful species that we are talking about. So difficult questions, right? That's a picture on the top right with an Indian farmer, right? And then Africans teaching these ideas. So weed science did not evolve under a holistic view of the subject. So please understand that. That is why we keep blaming weeds. But could we see the world differently? Could we become good observers? As our old senior veteran mentor, Robert Zimdahl, has been telling us. He couldn't come to Varanasi, but he gave his lecture was presented. Can we all become good observers, please, when we go out to the field? Observe as objectively as possible and use the classroom to good effect. So I am saying, look for a new paradigm instead of a paradigm shift. So be wary of any overstatement, including mine, right? Don't believe what I say. These are very dangerous times, but I can't stay silent because that would be just indifferent. And if I'm indifferent, I am complicit in. So that's why I began by saying, can we change the narrative a little bit? There is no plan B for the planet. And it's the responsibility of all of us to understand the scale of the danger we place and the scale of the danger that humans have caused to our planet. So get involved in thinking about, can you ever think about a world without weeds? No. Science can help, but cannot solve all of humanity's own problems created by humans. Because science, society, and politics are inseparable. Politics is deeply ingrained in how science gets funded through lobby groups. This is why weed science is also skewed, and our thinking and actions are skewed. Research groups compete. They're not different to sports, right? Think about your cricket. Because I'm a cricket fanatic, I relate to cricket. You're competing all the time, and truth gets bent a little in this battle for money, right? So biodiversity is in peril, as the COP29 Baku confirmed. Once in every three tree species on Earth has been declared at risk. Think about it. 1 in every 3 tree species on Earth has been declared. That is a very, very difficult statement to live with. The future aim is climate justice for everybody. It's looming as the changes are unpredictable. So everything you do, whether in agriculture or in everywhere, think about climate change, think about climate change, think about our future generation, think about what we can leave for them. If the unthinkable happens, planetary disaster, weeds will survive, but we will not, right? So look beyond the in weed research. When you do weed research and undergo this training, look at their social impact. Challenge anyone, right? Change the course if you have to. If you have thought about, haven't thought about this until now, think about it now. Don't believe that all weeds are bad. Look for the evidence or alternative viewpoints. Weeds are no more villainous than man himself. I think man is far more villainous than weeds. But because I was talking to a bigger audience, I said no more villainous, like Jack Harlan did. He said that 60 years ago. The other thing is the human life, your life and mine is very limited. 4,000 weeks, 80 years if you're lucky. Most Indians don't live that long. I'm stunned to silence when many of my friends have, Indian friends have lost their parents in their 50s or 60s. So spend our limited time not doing crazy things, create sustainable and equitable futures, dedicate yourself. Don't waste your life despising weedy species and fighting them. You cannot win. Don't start every article sent to me or to anyone else by saying weeds are the greatest threat to agricultural production and biodiversity. They are not. Change your mind, change your language, change your narrative. Don't write the next article that way. Connect your research effort with actual real life societal problems. Do not hesitate to utilize weed species. Go back to your supervisors and challenge them. Become more ecologically literate and thereby weed literate. Weeds have been our constant and intimate companions. Don't doubt that. Weeds are the shadows of men, right? Wherever we go, they follow us. They are our shadow. We should respect them a lot more. We will, and weeds can tell a lot about man, where he has been in very simple terms, or what he has done. Very simple. If only we knew more about them. Think about this. So leadership is an issue, and India is giving that leadership, and I'm very pleased about it, and China too, I must say. PWR in India and ICAR in India. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. No country can match that. China is the only one that comes anywhere near India in that sense. Attitudes must change, paradigms must change, and must be sponsored by that leadership. And weed scientists must rally around utilization options all. And I will say to everyone that write or accept only grants that seek multiple control approaches, including assessments of utilization potential. I changed that application weed grants by saying the last question is now tell us, why do you want to control a particular weed? Have you thought about the utilization potential? And that threw back at the grants that came. So please have a look at the APWSS website, which Gyanendra looks after. Start writing opinion pieces, perspective research articles, or anything. I will help you in that. Engage with weeds. Engage with weeds. Not with just with people. Engage with your weeds. Engage with others through our journey. I can't finish without these words. Lord, I am a Buddhist, therefore I have to go back to Lord Buddha. They were very appropriate at Varanasi. We are what we think. All that we are arises from our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Buddha. India gave us two of the greatest souls that ever walked in the world. Lord Buddha and Gandhi. And Gandhi said, it is better to walk alone than with a crowd going in the wrong direction. See how important that is. So another thing I have to say is, do I despair? No, I hope for the best. And it is what I'm trying to do is wisdom is knowing who to be and what to do in a given situation. It's not just that, but you have to share that wisdom, which is what these great people have done. The word virtue is acting on that wisdom. Be virtuous. That's why I chose the term virtuous weed. No better term to describe them. What they are doing for us is saving the planet. That's what they do for us. So I'm keeping my chin up. No one expected me to save the world, but otherwise you would have been born wearing a cape and tie. Just do the best you can. That's what I am doing, and I hope you will too. So I want to thank Dr. Mishra and Dr. Das of the IWSS and the Training Program Organizing Committee for this extraordinary effort once again. Gyanendra for managing this effect, and the APWSS website and the journal and links, etc. for me. Doctors Vijay Choudhary, Yogita Gharde, and Jeetendra Soni, the course coordinator. Extraordinary effort. My own international mentors and seniors, the guys that I turn to if I need any advice, Bob Zimdal and Raghavan Charudattan, who's from India, South Indian, for sharing their wisdom. They're both in their 80s, mid-80s, but they love India just like me. Many Indian friends, I have to acknowledge, and students for sharing their knowledge and stimulating me further. And I will encourage DWR to consider a division to promote the utilization of weed species and lead the world in that regard. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
I will stop sharing, okay?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry, I took an hour.
No issue, sir. So I request the participants, if they have any questions, so they can raise their hand. So we have Kavita Sagar. Please ask your question.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Though I joined late and for the talk, I found it very, very interesting, and it is very near to my research field as well. That is resource utilization, sustainable or resource utilization of the feeds in the form of, it may be ornamentals or medicinals. There are various, reports or literatures, and even my publications are also there, where we have, treated the weeds as medicinal weeds, and those could be used in for various purposes like iconia, various utilizations we have already published. So I found your lecture typically very, it's near to my research, and I really appreciate your presentation, and it was very quite useful for me as well, sir. And to add up, I want to share few of the things of my research which you may found useful, or other audience also may found useful. Sir, recently one of my PhD student, we have published a paper where we have designed, try to use the wild ornamental plants, especially belonging to the family Asteraceae. So we have designed original landscape designs, sir, from Karnataka. We have this based upon their phenology, based upon their habit, and based upon the habitat as well. We have tried to list out, and we have tried to give our original design or the drawing, for the sake of landscaping. It could be used in front of offices or universities or anywhere else. So this paper has been published in one of the India's oldest botanical journal, that is Indian Forester. This is one thing I'm happy to share with you all. And another thing, sir, it is long back. I worked with Dr. R. Raghavendra Rao, one of the senior scientists who worked as a director grade in CMAP, as well as NBRI. So I'm a student of Dr. Rao, sir. So when I was working with him, I could also publish various papers. One of the important paper was resource utilization of the weeds of Western Ghats. So I felt to share this with you, and thank you, sir, for your presentation. It was quite, very, very useful for me, particularly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for comments.
Yes, sir.
Can I add something there? Many of the PhDs that there was a flurry of activities through our WhatsApp group that I noticed, right? About new PhD opportunities, blah, blah, blah. Because it is our group, right? So they are related to weed science, okay? So, and then I encouraged them in some way. I didn't get a response, right? A good response. I mean, I'll just show one example with it, right? Without taking too long. Many of these PhDs just stop short of putting forward the hypothesis. What is the hypothesis being tested here? So describing, okay, I did this, I did that, but you have to, what well, I have to take my hat off for the old scientists for that. They want the hypothesis needs to be formed, right? Remember, the statistics came about wanting to prove that hypothesis or the null hypothesis, right? So many of these theses are there, right, available in India. But what is actually, did the student really understand what the hypothesis is? Very easy to formulate the hypothesis. Going back, right? So I am trying to help in that regard. It should not be after the horse has bolted. It has to be before the horse has bolted. So I am encouraging. For example, recently I saw something, right? A biodiversity, right? Okay, biodiversity. Okay, we all know pollination benefit. Pollination benefit. The Europeans lead the world in that. Hence, there is no point in stopping the research. You have to say, do this particular group of weeds or that particular group of weeds have pollination benefits to agriculture, nearby crop, something like that, and then prove or disprove. It's quite easy to think about the actual problem and its application. And then one should not stop just by measuring the yield of a crop or something. You must prove, like in the case of pathogens and so on and so forth, Koch postulates, there are 4 steps to go through. You must prove why bees, pollination of the bees was important for that crop. What is the mechanism in it? What is the bee actually taking from the crop in terms of returning the favor in terms of pollination? It's taking something. So the research in India stops short of it. And that's something that we must have a discussion on and go further. Go further means you can't go further without entomologists. This is where the trouble is. And I've been trying to tell them the collaboration. You need entomologists to track the bees and actually look at what they are eating. Then only you can prove that hypothesis earlier. That the mechanism, just like in the case of Koch postulates, the last one was, so a disease is caused by a pathogen and the pathogen has to be identified and the pathogen has to be given back to a non-diseased person. And that's the final proof that this is the pathogen we are dealing with. So research needs to focus on that final thing. It's a discourse for another day. We can do that separately. But all these PhD opportunities must go there. And I haven't seen the evidence yet. I do not want to push too hard because you got lots of people through DWR listening to not just this, but a bigger group, right? IWS, the society and all that. My society as well as the Indian society. So we're talking to a very bigger group, and the younger generation need to understand this. In any other country, they will not register you for a PhD without the hypothesis. And what techniques you are going to use to prove or disprove that hypothesis. The botany and ecology are important in that sense. Okay. Sorry,
okay, sir.
took a bit long.
Sir, thank you very much for encouraging words. So next question will be asked by Abha Parasar. Miss Abha, you can ask your question. Unmute yourself and then ask.
Is it coming?
In chat box, we have 2 questions, sir. So one is the bioherbicide derived from weeds, sulcotrine, mesotrine.
Yes, they are. Yes, so, the answer is very easy. Just look it up. Google. They are available in I think almost any country. I think I mentioned Calistro. It's in India. Well, typically India takes a long time to register a compound. We all know that your pesticide registration is one of the most hopeless things in the world, right? The Haryana office is very, very slow. Everybody knows that. So it'll take a long time, but mesotrione and other things, you will not be able to use it in India without registration. But it is very much used in Australia. Wonderful chemical. Yeah, please look it up. All of those things that I mentioned, you can look it up. Okay.
So,
And when you get the articles, I think you can get the names if you missed anything. Okay, they're commercialized. That is why I say that NEEM. Where is NEEM? Show me the registration. No, nothing. Right? There are a few others. NEEM is wonderful, right? Asagera indica is a great plant, one of the biggest, the greatest, one of the greatest in the world, no doubt. However, getting the biopesticides out of it hasn't gone well enough to anywhere near commercializing. Nowhere. There are many others in Indonesia and other countries which have gone further. And that is through mixing up of botanical mixture. Okay? Right on.
so okay, sir. No more questions are there. So
Yeah.
we thank you very much for your insightful lecture. It was
Right.
very much informative and very engaging. So yes, we have to accept that the beets are beneficial too.
Yeah.
Their benefits are long, so we have to consider
Yeah.
that also. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Can I quickly ask, would you like my presentation
Yes,
to
yes,
be sent to Gyanendra so that you can decide how you send it, right? Wait
yes,
until
sir.
the end of the course or whatever. This knowledge is to be shared, okay?
Yes, sir.
And the presentation material, they can use it. They only have to give some credit to, we must train people to give credit to where it is due to. So anyway, so I will send it. I have no problem. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.